The radical, fundamental principles of freedom, rational self-interest, and individual rights. This is the Yaron Brook Show.
All right, everybody, welcome to Yaron Brook Show. On this Friday, January 17th, I hope everybody is having a fantastic week and looking forward to a weekend. I am slowly recovering. My voice is not 100%, but we're getting there. We're getting there. All right, cool. Let's see. Somebody noticed we have 9 news topics today. I didn't even notice that, and the reason for that is it's kind of a thin news day. There's not a lot to talk about today, so I had to scrounge around for 9 small news items. No, I mean, they're all good, but there's nothing in depth. There's nothing really to chew, to really go after here. So we'll be able to get through the 9 pretty quickly. They're actually 10 because my opening shtick will be something different. But yeah, so we're going to be reviewing the news this January 17th. What is it? 4 days before President Trump is sworn in as president. We've already got a big change to that. It turns out that it's going to be very, very, very cold on Monday, just in time for me to go to the East Coast, I guess. And therefore, they're going to do the swearing in indoors. So it's going to be cold. It's going to be cold. So if you're going to inauguration and you listen to the Yaron Brook Show, you know, take a sweater, take a down jacket, something. It's going to be very, very cold. All right, one thing that's going to really heat up is right after inauguration, and as soon as they first few days, supposedly, I mean, rumor has it, the press has it, that Donald Trump has 100 executive orders ready to go. 100. You know, we've gone, and I don't know what normal is. I don't think 100 is normal. Sounds like a lot. But, you know, executive orders have become a way to get around the dysfunctionality of Congress, to get stuff done without having to go through the burden of actual legislation. You know, every president seems to ratchet this up and make it worse, certainly since Bush. Maybe it probably goes back further than that, but certainly since Bush Jr., executive orders have become bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So it's now the imperial presidency. The president writes up executive orders. Congress' job is to do what the president wants them to do. You know, the Republican leaders of the House and the Senate basically march at the orders of President Trump, and that's what the American system of government has become. It's going to be really, really interesting to keep track of the executive orders. We'll see if I can keep track of them. 100, God, I mean, just in a few days. I'll try to report on the big, significant, important ones. I'll talk about one of them today. Not very significant, not very important, but caught my eye. So we'll talk about that. As he goes through, there will be some big ones relating to immigration. There'll be some big ones relating to tariffs. There'll be others, all kinds of others relating to the ability to fire government employees, I'm sure, and a lot of others. Some of them good, some of them no good, some of them awful, some of them horrible. I'll report on them as they happen. I have a sense that the pace of big deal news is going to accelerate in the weeks to come. All right, so let's go over our topics. We'll start with TikTok. So Supreme Court today ruled that the law is the law, and they don't think that basically banning TikTok or forcing its sale from Chinese ownership is a violation of the First Amendment. They don't seem super adamant about this. It's a very, very quick opinion. So I think it was written in haste, and they don't want this to serve as precedent for anything. But they did come down pretty clearly that TikTok should be either shut down on Sunday or sold off. Not because that's their opinion, but because that is the law. Biden today has come out and said that he is not going to insist on shutting down TikTok. I guess presidents have some discretion about whether to implement laws or not. I guess. I don't know. We'll have to get a legal scholar on here to find out if this is actually true or not. But it turns out that Biden is not going to implement the law on Sunday, so they're not going to insist that TikTok shut down, although TikTok is planning to, from what I've read. Trump then immediately, with an executive order on Monday, will somehow exempt TikTok from the law. I didn't know you could do that either. So, I mean, we're getting a lot of interesting precedents here where a law that the president coming in doesn't really like and the president going out doesn't really care that much about, is going to be disregarded. As I guess Trump finds a buyer for TikTok or does some kind of other deal. As I told you, I think yesterday, he has invited the CEO of TikTok to the inauguration. So he is obviously currying favor with TikTok and views them as part of the big tech, suck up to Trump entourage. So TikTok has joined that grouping. It's hard to believe we're still talking about TikTok, but it looks like we'll be talking about it well into next week as all of this gets resolved or not, one way or the other or not. And so it's going to be interesting, really interesting to see if they really shut it down on Sunday. We talked about the fact that people are rushing out of TikTok and into other Japanese social media networks. Not exactly what Congress had in mind, I think, when they wanted to ban TikTok. But that's what happens when you have a unprincipled, floating, kind of irrelevant, concrete-bound legislation that affects one company that is really has not, at the end of the day, not about national security. And also, people studying Chinese has skyrocketed. So it seems like Americans want to become more like China. If they can't have TikTok in America, then they want to go to China to have TikTok or something. I don't know. It's a very strange phenomena among TikTok young people, TikTok and the rest of it. So hard to tell where TikTok is going to be next week and where it survives. The whole story of how Trump is like the biggest advocate now for TikTok is interesting. I have found an issue on which Trump and Ben Shapiro seem to really disagree about. TikTok. Ben Shapiro has clearly come out today unequivocally for shutting down TikTok and getting rid of TikTok, and Trump wants to keep it around. I'm on Trump's side on this. Sorry, Ben. I'm on Trump's side. I just don't see the national security threat. I think instead of banning TikTok, how about the United States develop a actual strategy on how to deal with China? And how about we not rush that strategy, not be a strategy in how to rush to World War III? It's a strategy in how to, make clear to China that World War III is not worth having, and how we can have a constructive relationship with China without capitulating to them and without, and without giving in to them. I think we should be tough with China, but in the right areas. Like every time, there was a story today about how they hacked into Janet Yellen's computer. Like that is something people should be really ticked off about. TikTok? What are they going to get? They're going to, the Chinese intelligence services now have an amazing spreadsheet with, having categorized a significant percentage of the American population on how much they love cat videos. How much they love cat video and where we go. How much time we spend at the mall. This is crucial, irreplaceable intelligence data. Like, if you have data, if you have information, if your lifestyle is one that you want to keep hidden from the Chinese intelligence services, delete TikTok from your phone. That's pretty easy to do. So TikTok's irrelevant, but hacking directly into Treasury Department computers, hacking into Treasury Secretary's computer, that's verges on an act of war. That everybody should be apoplectic about instead of this stupid obsession with TikTok. So anyway, I hope they save TikTok. And Mary Eileen loves cat videos. You know, and you know what, Mary Eileen? The Chinese know it, and that should really, really worry you, because they can probably get state secrets out of you. Otherwise, they'll reveal the cat videos you love. I don't. Something like that. It goes something like that. All right. So that is TikTok Supreme Court. Trump will know more about TikTok's future, present next week. Congress is eager to get on with reforming our immigration laws, and it is obviously something that the American public is incredibly concerned about. And so there was a big push to try to pass immigration legislation. And of course, we know how big of an issue immigration is, both to voters, but also it's just a big issue. I mean, millions of people crossing the southern border, chaos at the border, chaos across the board, potentially the rounding up of so-called illegal immigrants or illegal immigrants in the United States and deporting them. How does that work? How is that? I mean, there's a lot of complexity. And yet, how does the United States also encourage, I guess, high-skilled, 0.1% brilliant people to come to the United States to work? Or how do we replenish? How do we deal with the fact that our population is going to shrink here soon? A lot of questions. How do we bring in labor, never mind skilled labor? So a lot of interesting questions around immigration. I did a whole show about my solutions for immigration. So Republicans are jumping into this. Good for them, and they're gonna pass bills to fix the immigration system. And bill number 1 is here. Democrats they need 60 votes to get this passed, so they're gonna have to attract some Democratic votes, but they might get some. There are 2 Democrats who are actually sponsors of this bill. So. They will need another 5 more Senate Democrats. The 2 Democrats who are sponsors are Ruben Gallego of Arizona and John Fetterman of Pennsylvania. The bill basically has 2 components, 2 parts. It's called the Lackey-Riley Act, which is named after the woman who was murdered by an illegal immigrant. And the first part of the bill, it would mandate that the federal government detain all immigrants accused of theft and other related crimes. Theft here would include, as it should, shoplifting. And this is because, and you know, you can't claim that our congressmen are, concrete bound, but this is because the man convicted of killing Riley was charged with shoplifting prior to her death, but had failed to appear in court, and therefore, people say if he had been detained, the murder would have never happened, which probably true. So let's take this one example and let's pass a law. So it would cause the federal government to detain all immigrants accused, and I guess all illegal immigrants accused of theft or other related crimes. So that is portion 1. This is kind of tough on crime, tough on shoplifting and theft. I mean, okay, I can't find anything overly objectionable, but like this, wouldn't it be cool if the police just detained thieves generally? I don't know why this has to be special for immigrants. How about just detaining shoplifters? How about shoplifters get put in jail? How about jail time for shoplifting, particularly if it's organized? But generally, let's detain shoplifters. Maybe let's release all the drug convictions and instead instead of war on drugs, here's a much better war. Let's have a war on shoplifting. I'm not kidding, by the way. Right? Shoplifting is an actual crime. Drugs are not a crime, not a rights violation, violating crime. So let's take the victimless crime and make it legal, and let's take the crime with a victim and start taking property rights in this country seriously again. And shoplifting would be not a bad place to at least start. So it would do that. And then the second thing it would do is it would give states a broad right to bring lawsuits against the federal immigration policy. So if a state doesn't like immigration policy, they can take the federal government to court. Now, this one's a little weird, and you could see how this could really become cumbersome and deteriorate. Different states have different agendas. How is the court going to rule? By what standard does it rule? So I'm not sure about this, but this has to do, I think, with the if you remember, Texas tried to assert a certain amount of independence regarding its ability to control its own the border that it has, that the United States has in Texas with Mexico. And there was some question about the constitutionality of all that. And I think this is trying to clarify that, or at least increase the rights of states with regard to this, or bring it to the courts and let the courts make these decisions. I guess a few things. I mean, the shoplifting part, the detention part, I don't really have a problem with that. States suing the federal government, probably not a good idea, probably create more mayhem than anything else. This being the primary focus for an immigration bill, I mean, immigration needs massive overhaul. It needs scrapping the existing system and starting over. It needs really thinking outside of the box. And in order to do it well, it's going to need a coalition of Republicans and Democrats to come up with comprehensive immigration reform that you could get you need 7 Democrats to sign on to. So it won't be quite as good as I would like. It won't be as restrictive as Republicans would like. It won't be as quite as, I don't know what Democrats want exactly when it comes to immigration. But we need the hard work of legislating, of figuring out, of coalition building, of sitting down and figuring out what an immigration bill looks like. And I think, sadly, what's going to happen is it's going to come as drips and drabs. The fundamental issues about employment are not going to be dealt with. We're going to get money for a wall. We're going to get money for deportation. We're going to get, maybe they can hash out a little bit of a special H-1B visa reconfiguring, but I doubt they have enough finesse or enough patience or enough will to even do that. But it's just sad that we're going to take immigration and we're just going to nitpick it, all these little things instead of start fresh, start new, do something important. Here's the thing about Trump. Trump is coming in with everybody expecting he is a massive disruptor. This is massively disrupting. And that's an amazing opportunity. It's an amazing opportunity to disrupt. And look, the federal government needs disrupting. And he's going to blow it on nonsense, on little nitpicky, stupid things. Instead of going for, and look, we know exactly who Trump is, so instead of going for really draining the swamp, he's going to swap swamp animals. We're already seeing it with all the CEOs groveling before him and sending money to his inaugural fund and all this stuff. he's going to nitpick at little issues within immigration that he loves, like the wall and like deportation. Taxes, he's going to, just fidget at the edges with taxes, but nothing dramatic. There's not going to be any disruption. So here's what we're going to do. Tomorrow, I think it'll be 3 p.m. Eastern time, the usual time for these shows. Tomorrow, I'm going to do a show on the first 100 days. Iran's first 100 days. If I were president, what would be the first things I would do? As 100 days is usually kind of the public, Congress, even the media gives the president, okay, 100 years, go for it. So I want to present a disruptive agenda. I want to show you what disruption really looks like, how you would do it. Again, it would be hard to get everything I want through Congress. So I will present some options and some maybe more moderate forms of them than maybe we could get through Congress. But we're gonna present 100 days of legislative activity, the hard work that it's gonna take to actually disrupt the federal government. So we'll do that tomorrow. You're on 100 days of disruption, we'll call it. 100 days of disruption. Our wish list for 100 days of disruption. All right, that will be tomorrow. All right, that is the, that. All right, what was the story about drugs? Yeah, so I don't know if you remember this, but a couple of years ago, the Democrats passed this bill in Congress, and Biden signed onto it, and this was a big deal, where basically Medicare and Medicare can now negotiate with drug companies on a list of drugs to be determined once a year or every few months what those drugs are going to be, but they're going to be identified as the drugs that the Medicare can negotiate a price. Now, the reason this is significant is Medicare is the largest buyer of drugs in the country, one of the largest in the world. And, Medicare today, before this bill was passed, was prohibited from negotiating so that it couldn't drive down prices. It couldn't twist the arms of pharma so that pharma could actually maybe make a little bit of a profit. Well, now there is a list every year of 15 drugs that Medicare has to negotiate with drug companies, and where they can twist their arms and they can force prices down dramatically. And the Biden administration just revealed, their list. This was, by the way, part of provisions in the Inflation Reduction Act, and aimed at making drugs more affordable in the United States. This is a truly disastrous bill. This provision of, we can squeeze the drug makers on these drugs. Truly horrific. Instead of weakening Medicare, instead of breaking Medicare up and actually getting rid of Medicare, what you want is turn Medicare into a voucher system that allows seniors to use it to buy insurance. And then you have fragmented insurance companies, and they can compete, and they can then negotiate with drug companies. Now you have a government behemoth with a gun, right? And the penalties. If the drug company doesn't lower prices enough so that Medicare is satisfied, there are all kinds of penalties that only a government can impose. So they're basically using a gun to negotiate. One of the worst things that Biden did, and he did a lot of bad things. This is certainly one of the worst, no question. Anyway, they just published the 15 medications, and at the top of the list is Ozempic, is Novo Nordisk's blockbuster diabetes injection. In addition to Wegovy, which is also like a diabetes appetite suppressant, and the diabetes pill, ribelsus. Now, they're all three considered one product because they all use the same active ingredients. So that's just one of the 15 drugs that they're going to now, in a sense, regulate and price control. And you know, God, I mean, these drugs, this new class of drugs, Ozempic being the representative of it, it's just been astounding. We've talked about this quite a bit, these GLP-1 drugs, in terms of their impact, in terms of their effect, in terms of weight loss, in terms of diabetes and heart disease and even Alzheimer's and maybe cancer. Yeah, I mean, these are revolutionary drugs. So yeah, it's time. It's time that we squeeze those evil pharma companies that do nothing to make our lives better, that contribute nothing to the world. We need to squeeze them now and make sure they don't make too much money, even though they did invest billions and billions of dollars developing these drugs. Okay, well, but that's yesterday. Today, they're making a fortune. They're making a lot of money off of these drugs, and we're going to squeeze them so they lose money. It truly is horrific and sad. You know, so, you know, I'm not going to read you the list of drugs because they mean nothing to me except Ozempic. But this is one of those things that it's pretty clear to me that while Republicans criticize this and went after this and hate this and all of that, this is not going to be one of those things that Republicans reverse. They love this. More power over evil pharma. And of course, now we have RFK running Health and Human Services. I mean, he hates pharma and he hates GLP-1 drugs. So as far as he's concerned, yeah, squeeze them, destroy them as much as possible. You know, Trump administration is quite happy to preserve this and many other statist provisionings of the Biden administration. Okay, so one of the executive orders that Trump is going to sign next week, supposedly, is a executive order that makes crypto a national priority. And supposedly he might sign this on day one. So it'll make crypto a national priority. You know, not exactly sure what that means. Nobody's exactly sure what that means. Now, it could, you know, it could involve the creation of a crypto advisory council that would give the industry a voice within his administration. It could be, you know, talking about this strategic Bitcoin national stockpile or whatever. It could be any of these things, but you know, an executive order from President Trump. Crypto's important. We love crypto. It is likely to go out there. It shouldn't shock you that the consequence of this was a spike in the price of Bitcoin to almost its all-time high, to almost 105, or maybe it is at 105. So maybe a spike to its all-time high. You know, people are obviously really, really happy. The Trump administration is suggesting that it's going to be unbelievably Bitcoin friendly. Yeah, I mean, this is a real win for anybody who knew this was coming and bought crypto in advance, which I assume is quite a few people. Yeah, I mean, you can see that the huge spike as this news report is made, and as people are digesting it and thinking of it and figuring out what it means. A huge spike in Bitcoin. It might even reach, we'll see, if it reaches its all-time high of 108. It's at 105 right now. After it dropped to like 93,000. Yep. Litecoin, another coin, actually surged 27% over the last 2 days. Yes, I don't know what it all means, and I don't know what making crypto a priority is. But one thing is clear, and this is good. I'm all for this. Is it does mean that the regulatory crusade, the regulatory harassment, the regulatory harassment against crypto, which Elizabeth Warren was really behind and really spurned over the last couple of years, is over, and that this administration, at least somewhat, will be friendly towards crypto, and at best leave it alone. At worst, actually support it. I do find it really fascinating that Bitcoiners and crypto generally, people who suggest to us that crypto and Bitcoin are a way to get around government, they're an alternative to government, they're a way for liberty to win out and replace government and all of this, are cheering and celebrating what is the equivalent of, particularly if this reserve fund is created, a massive, huge government subsidy. So it just does not cease to amaze me the degree to which people are, willing to grovel and willing to buy into big government when and if it serves their purposes. I will be missing out on the Bitcoin bandwagon. Happy to do so. I mean, go for it. If you can make money at it, good for you. I will be sitting this one out, and I don't really care. I like that the money I have is money I made, not money I in a sense speculated on or just passively just imploded for no reason I understand. So not what I do. You guys go for it. It feels too much like a lottery ticket. I don't buy lottery tickets, even if the government is buying the lot, even if the government is supporting the lottery. I'm not buying the lottery tickets. Not interested. All right. So executive order on Bitcoin and crypto more generally out of Trump on day one. A number of states are passing legislation to create strategic reserves of Bitcoin. Again, weird, if nothing else, really, really just weird. And really, really, really just weird that Bitcoiners and crypto people would like that, would support that, would get excited about that when it's another massive state subsidy for their thing that is anti-state. Bewildering. All right. This one's actually, this is great. This one is the best news in a while. It's one that I actually talked about this years ago. As this is basically about ESG. And years ago, I think Don Watkins, when he was working for Alex Epstein, they asked me, Yaron, what would you do with, how would you combat the idea of funds that invest in, based on ESG, like big, like BlackRock and others that basically take people's money and they've decided they have an ESG mandate and they're investing based on ESG. And I said I would sue them. I would sue them because their job as fiduciaries, as my fiduciaries of my 401k, let's say, is to maximize my return, not to be engaged in social programs that I have not agreed to. And it seemed like a class action lawsuit against these companies was the way to go to force them to stop doing this. And that it's all based on their fiduciary duty. Well, here it is. So according to a Texas federal judge, which I think this is just an amazing ruling, American Airlines violated federal law by filing its 401k plan with funds for investment companies that pursue environmental, social, and corporate governance goals. The airline breached its fiduciary duty of loyalty in allowing its $26 billion retirement plan to be influenced by corporate goals unrelated to workers' best financial interests. Yes, yes, yes. Sometimes I'm way ahead of the curve. I mean, this is years ago I said this. Judge Reed O'Connor of the U.S. District Court of the Northern District of Texas made this decision after a 4-day non-jury trial. This lawsuit was filed in 2023. And the lawsuit says the airline wrongly offered 401k fund managers by companies that pursue ESG policy goals through proxy voting and shareholder activism. Yet the 401k of American Airlines is committed to workers' best financial interests, not pursuing social goals. You know, this is huge. You know, it says it's not imprudent. I'm not sure why. It says it's disloyal, but not improvement. According to the judge, the American pilots who sued, the American pilots are the ones who sued, proved that the airline's activities, which included hiring BlackRock Inc. to manage billions of dollars in planned assets, despite its ESG-oriented investing in proxy voting activism, violated the Employee Retirement Income Securities Act directive to act loyally and in the best interest of plan participants. ERISA does not permit a fiduciary to pursue a non-precautionary interest, no matter how noble it might view the aim. ESG investments often underperform traditional investment by approximately 10%. I mean, this is so brilliant. I am so happy about this ruling. Now, the judge did say that the pilots failed to prove a violation of the statute's prudence rule because the airline acted according to the prevailing practices and in a manner similar to the fiduciaries in the industry, right? So they acted like everybody else, this second-handed kind of rule. And he said that's even true, even though those standards may stem from BlackRock's alarming degree of control and influence over the retirement business, according to the judge. So, you know, we will see what happens. Now, the judge here is known to be a particular conservative judge, you know, this is a trial that was in June 2024, and the ruling came out today, and we'll see how this ripples through the industry. But you can imagine a lot of lawsuits like this. And it basically is going to change if this holds on appeal or whatever. And if this becomes kind of the rule of the land, at least in the 5th District, then it's going to require fund managers for 401ks to be very, very, very clear about what it is that they're doing. And to the extent that they are managing pension, which is a 401k, they will not be able to use that money to participate in social activism. The judge is now looking at damages, which will be interesting as well. And I guess I don't know if BlackRock was a defendant here. It looks like the defendant was basically American Airlines, the company itself. All right, I mean, I'm patting myself on the shoulder, on the back. It's rare that I say something and a few years later somebody actually did what I suggested be done, and it works out. That was very, very, very cool. All right. I don't know if you guys appreciate how cool that is, but it was cool. Okay, Chicago, not cool. Chicago is not cool. It's not cool. Yeah, so in Chicago, it turns out that tens of thousands of devices, we're talking about laptops, iPads, cell phones, stuff like that, that were purchased by the Chicago public schools recently, 23, 24, have been lost or stolen. Thousands of them, it turns out, are overseas. The district lost, just last year, 23 million worth of devices. And when they lost these devices, it turns out they didn't use the tracking, find my iPhone, find my iPad. They didn't use that, even though they're required by law to have a vendor who provides geo-tracking services. I guess they check now that they know them, that hundreds of them are missing and they found them in Africa. I mean, there's no way this is happening without somebody on the inside making a killing by selling this stuff off to theft rings that they'll take it overseas, break these things up and resell them in a variety of different ways. So, this is Chicago. They can't get anything right, it seems, when it comes to the Chicago local government. The city government is about as incompetent as it's possible to be. I don't think it is possible to be more incompetent than these guys are. These devices are gone. They'll never be seen again. They'll just go back to Apple or whoever and buy another 23,000 of these. 23 million. What did I say? It was worth 23 million. What the hell? I mean, Chicago has lots of money sitting in the bank account. Oh no, I forgot. They're bankrupt, basically bankrupt. And will they investigate? Will they find the people within the system that are stealing this stuff, that are selling this stuff? Probably not. Probably not. I mean, it's just Chicago is just a basket case, a complete and utter basket case. All right, we got let's see, a few more stories. Okay, this is from the Spectator from the UK. So in the UK economy has not been doing well, and the Labour government came in and has basically said, look, we are pro-growth lefties. We want to grow this economy. We are going to invest in economic growth. That's been the problem, no economic growth. So that's what we're going to do. And one of the big agenda items was to really invest in deregulation. We're gonna reduce regulation to make the economy grow again. Right? Well, it turned out that Rachel Reeves, I guess Treasury Secretary over there, has invited all the regulators in for a meeting in Downing Street yesterday. I guess it was yesterday. And to lay down the new law, all this deregulation that's going to happen. And it turns out that what she meant by deregulation is, this is being tried over and over again. It's pretty interesting to see what happens in the UK. What she's going to do, what they're going to focus on really, is they're going to relax the rules on mortgages, on mortgage lending. They're going to allow banks and what they call building societies, S&Ls, basically, to offer people bigger and riskier loans, make it easier for people to borrow money against their home. Didn't the U.S. try this in the early 2000s? Wasn't that part of? Yeah, I think that's what they try to do, right? Right now, for example, buyers can typically only borrow 4.5 times their salary, and there are all kinds of affordability rules in place to make sure they can actually withstand high interest rates and pay it back. Well, they're going to scrap some of that and make it much easier for people to borrow money that they can't afford to pay for mortgages they can't afford, to buy houses they can't afford. Now, while the UK has a real housing problem. The problem is not that people can't get mortgages. Problem in the UK for housing is prices are out of control, and prices are out of control for one simple, basic, unequivocal reason. Too little supply. So if you really wanted to go after housing, what you would do is deregulate the construction industry, the zoning industry. You'd deregulate housing, you'd open it up to new construction and let it rip. Get rid of those green spaces. Green spaces. Who the hell needs green spaces? And start building. Height requirements. Don't need those. Start building. And if you actually did that, prices would come down and homes would become more affordable. Anyway, you did that, including in the United States, but certainly in the UK as well. Instead, you're going to get people to take out more loans. They're going to spend those on houses. It's going to make them more susceptible to changes in home prices. By the way, once people own homes that they paid a lot of money for, they have very little interest in other people owning homes. They don't want to vote for people to actually build more homes because that might lower their prices. So the way to stimulate the economy is to get people in greater debt. It's just bizarre. Again, this is what the United States did under Alan Greenspan with the recommendation of Paul Krugman, basically inflated a housing bubble by encouraging people to borrow money. I mean, if the UK wants to grow, and it really needs to grow, and it would be really good for the UK to grow, then what the UK needs is real deregulation. Deregulation that makes it difficult to start businesses, to grow businesses, to build homes, to build apartment complexes, to build. It's very simple. You want economic growth? Make it legal. Economic growth is a consequence of economic activity, which is which is dominantly production. You want to grow economically? You have to grow production of goods and services. How do you grow production? Make it easier for the producers. Make it easier for producers. Reduce the cost of capital by lowering taxes. Reduce the burdensome regulation to start a business. Reduce the burdensome regulation to keep the business running. Just reduce regulation. This stupidity, that's not reducing regulation. All right. Let's see. Google. I don't know. A lot of these tech companies are suddenly getting balls. I don't know what's going on. Google has basically told the European Union it will not add fact checks to search results and YouTube videos or use them in ranking or removing content, despite the fact that this is required in a new EU law. So if you guys in Europe can't get my YouTube videos in a few months, this might be the reason why. Google's never included fact-checking as part of its content moderation practices, although they will take down your videos if they don't like what you say regarding COVID. Only topic I know where they're willing to take down videos is COVID. Everything else is fine. You can talk about pretty much anything you want on YouTube, except COVID. I shouldn't even be saying the word COVID, because you can't say anything. Even if what you say is agreement with the mainstream, you just can't talk about it. I finally got over my red mark. 90 days cleared me, and I'm okay now after I talked about COVID. And remember, I have pretty, I don't think my views on COVID are that way outside of the mainstream. But can't talk about it. Can't talk about it. Anyway, the company's told EU lawmakers that it's not going to change its practice, and it's made this public. They wrote a letter to the Deputy Director General of the European Commission, And, we'll see now how the EU responds. The EU has a code of practice on disinformation, which was introduced in 2022. Sounds like 1984. It includes several voluntary commitments that tech firms and private companies, and that includes fact checking. So I guess it's voluntary, but we'll see what happens when they don't volunteer. So it's going to be interesting to see how the European Union responds to this. Now, of course, Meta has reduced fact checking and shifted to community notes. Elon Musk has reduced content moderation significantly. So Google is just kind of joining on this bandwagon and basically telling you, oh, the EU, you recommend this. We're not doing it. Nobody else is doing it. Just forget it. So we'll see whether Europe decides to ban American social media, like America banned Chinese social media, or I don't know what, they pass a new law, do something else, or just ignore it as well. It'll be interesting to watch. I think Europe has bigger problems. Bigger problems. All right, finally, Spain. Spain doesn't want you if you're an American. So Prime Minister of Spain, Pedro Sanchez, a socialist, has proposed 100% tax, 100% tax on foreign bought homes. There's a housing crisis. Now, we talked a minute ago about how to fix housing crisis. Build, baby, build. Build, build, build. No, can't do that. So instead of that, we're going to fix the housing crisis by penalizing foreigners for buying homes in Spain. So the tax would apply to all homes that non-EU residents purchase. This is a major setback for all you Brits, because the British love buying homes in Spain, right? There's actually livable weather in Spain. In Spain, you can actually live, and and they escape England and they go to Spain to spend half the year, or spend a few months, or spend the summer, or spend whatever, spend the winter. But now they can't buy a home unless they're willing to pay 100% tax. So it turns out that in 2023, non-residents from outside the European Union bought around 27,000 homes and apartments in Spain. Not to live in, but mainly to speculate and make money from them, the Prime Minister said. Because there's so little housing, why? But because there's so little housing, they're not gonna allow this to happen anymore, right? Foreigners make up 15% of all real estate purchases in Spain, they want this to end. They also want to get rid of Airbnb. There are too many tourists as well. They're also ending this visa where you can go to Spain and invest in real estate and bring money to Spain and get a Spanish passport. That is becoming null and void for Americans. If you're still interested in doing that, Greece is the place. You can go visit Nikos in Greece, and you can get a Greek passport by making an even smaller investment in Greece. So the Spanish government is basically saying, we don't want foreigners, we don't want tourists, and we don't want investors in our real estate. In spite of the fact that they don't want me, I still intend to go visit Spain regularly and enjoy their beautiful cities, their amazing food, and at least in some cases, they're amazing people. So they're not getting rid of me. They might think they're getting rid of me. They're not getting rid of me. They're getting rid of some other Americans, not me. All right, that is the 9-10 topics. We covered today. We did them pretty quick, less than an hour. Thank you, guys. That is the news for January 17th, Friday. All right, we have a few questions, not many, just a few. So we'll cover those. And if it's a short show today, so be it. It is Friday after all. But of course, if you would like to ask a question, if you would like me to keep going, If you would like to bring up a topic I haven't talked about yet, then Super Chat is open and available, and you can use it. Also want to remind you that the show is sponsored by alexepstein.substack.com. alexepstein.substack.com. Alex, of course, is just amazingly knowledgeable in terms of first off, fuel, energy, climate change, environmentalism, energy policy of the Trump administration. He knows a lot about that, what they should do, what they probably will do. You can educate yourself, learn from Alex by going to the Substack, by engaging with this new AI that answers your questions based on what Alex would think. But also, you can get real insight on what to expect from the Trump administration. Alex has some insight there. And he's got a great piece up right now about all of that, the 25 things Trump should do to liberate energy. And many of them he probably will do, given the people he's got running energy right now. So check out alexepstein.substack.com. Make sure to subscribe. And yeah, support Alex. Other sponsors, the Ayn Rand Institute. The Ayn Rand Institute is hosting a special webinar to celebrate Ayn Rand's 120th birthday. It's going to be it's going to be on February 2nd, which is her birthday, at 2 p.m. East Coast time. And they will be premiering for the first time. You'll be able to hear the Ayn Rand's 1980 interview with radio host Raymond Newman. She'll be talking about what can save America, who is a monster, and the critical factors to happiness. ARI Associate Archivist Brandon Lisi will introduce the interview's historical context, and then they will screen the recording. So don't miss it. You can get information and register for it at aynrand.org/start here. Talk about Ayn Rand's birthday. I will be at a conference celebrating Ayn Rand's birthday, Rand's Day, in Naples, Florida, that weekend, the weekend of February 1st and 2nd. I will be speaking on the future of objectivism. That should be fun, I think. Should be positive, yeah, and fun. But you're also going to get Peter and Harry and a bunch of other speakers. It's going to be a fabulous weekend. It's going to be a lot of fun. I encourage you to come if you're anywhere in Florida. If not, you can fly in, and you can drive from anywhere in Florida and come say hello and spend a couple of days with a bunch of objectivists celebrating Ayn Rand's 120th birthday. You can find information about it in the link below the video. Let's see, it's randsday.com. Just go to randsday.com, and there'll be information there. You'll click on a link there to see the conference itself. Randsday, Rands, RANDS, day, one word.com. All right. Let us go to your questions. James, $100. Thank you, James. Really, really, really appreciate it. James says, highly skilled colleges globally can get a 2-year visa for the UK to live and work there. Is it worth living there based on the laws, people, culture changing? Appears to be getting worse, and a view on foreigners taking their jobs. This is my New Year's donation. Thank you, James. I really appreciate the donation. I mean, look, it depends where you're going to live in the UK, but I think that going and spending a couple of years in London is definitely an experience worth having. London is a phenomenal city, in spite of all the negativity you hear. It's still a dynamic, interesting, alive and lots to do. I mean, there's not a day where there isn't a concert or an event that that is worth going to. Whether you have the time to go to is a different question. But there's just a ton of stuff going on that is worth doing. And then it's, of course, if you're in finance, it's one of the most dynamic places in the world in terms of finance. So yeah, I definitely think it's worth doing. It's still a place. Be careful what you say on Twitter, I guess, and be careful on a bunch of different things. You would do that if you went overseas. You have to be careful. But yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about the laws, people, culture. They're changing for the negative, but these are long-term changes. Right now, it's still true that London's an amazing place to live. So I wouldn't hesitate to take 2 years and go there. All right, Silvanos. Thank you, Silvanos. $50. Really appreciate it, Silvanos. Let's see. Have you watched the SpaceX launch of Spaceship 7 that happened yesterday? The booster returned and landed successfully, but the ship had a fuel leak and had to terminate over the Gulf. The debris falling created some cool pics and blocked planes. Yeah, I did see it. I mean, again, the ability to catch the booster rocket is just amazing. I don't think we'll ever get bored of watching that. It's so cool. It is unfortunate that the rocket itself exploded above the Gulf. The pictures were kind of spooky because a lot of the pictures of the debris were taken from planes that had to be diverted because of that debris. And you can imagine the tragedy that could have happened if any of that debris had hit a plane and something, some tragic would have happened. Luckily, that's not the case. Maybe that's impossible. I don't know, but it certainly looked like it was pretty close to airplanes. It was pretty close to airplanes. So yes, I mean, I think Elon Musk rated it a 5 out of 8, so better than 50%. The booster rocket returned, landed successfully. That was half the job, and then I think he said the rest of the mission got 1 out of 4 because they did get a lot of valuable data. Remember, SpaceX doesn't mind failing. They fail in order to learn. Failure is part of the learning process. Failure is part of the way in which they advance. They get better. They improve. Failure is how they're going to get to Mars. Is one of the ways in which they're going to get to Mars. Right? It's a mechanism towards a goal. So yeah, you got to admire them. I admire them anyway. What they do, how they do it, and how incredibly successful they are. All right, thank you, Silvanos. All right, Andrew. Ayn Rand had a great attitude towards fame. Harry Binswanger said she didn't know she was famous. This implies she forgot. It wasn't too important. But she delighted in a stranger on a train ride recognizing her. Yes, I mean, I think she had a wonderful attitude towards this. It was fun to be recognized. It was fun to know that you're famous, but it's not something you held at the top of mind as your image of yourself. It's something that was there in the background, but did not dominate your thinking about yourself. I think that's the right attitude for these kind of things. All right. James Taylor says, strong men get mad when you lie to them. Weak men get mad when you tell them the truth. Yeah, that's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. Strong men can handle the truth, even if the truth is not favorable, even if the truth is not complimentary. It's the truth. It's the only thing that matters. It's reality. It's fact. Strong men thrive on fact. Weak men are afraid of facts, fear reality, fear their own mind, and therefore fear reason. And if you fear reason, you fear facts and reality. Thank you, James. James Chi. I love Chicago. I just do not understand how the people pick such wacky leaders in politics. I know you like New York City and LA. Did you ever consider Chicago? Yeah, it's too cold. Way, way, way too cold. Way too cold. And the politics is insane. I like Chicago. I like visiting, but I like the skyline. There's a lot to love about Chicago. Skyline, there's a great museum there. But it's that wind when it's cold, and just the incompetence and the horror of the political leadership in Chicago, just not worth it. And if I lived in Chicago, definitely downtown Chicago. Cool place. Holden says, I would like to add to my trade deficit with you. Yeah, it's terrible that you have a trade deficit with me. Thank you. Value for value. Would you would you consider yourself an Austrian economist? If not, why not? Well, I mean, I am a supporter of Austrian economics. I think Austrian economics is the closest we have to the truth in economics. So to the extent that I'm an economist, I would consider myself of the Austrian school. I don't know if I'd consider myself an economist fully. I have a hard time categorizing myself. Am I an economist? Am I a philosopher? Am I a finance guy? What am I exactly? I'm a public intellectual. I know a lot of economics. I know a lot of finance. I know some philosophy. I don't like to categorize myself as an expert in any one of those, really, because I'm not. I haven't done research in economics. I haven't taught economics. So I don't know that I know it to the extent that I would call myself an economist. I know it well enough to be able to analyze what's going on in the world and explain it to you as my role as public intellectual. But yes, I'm a supporter of Austrian economics. Andrew, do you ever want to shake people who hold statist views by the lapels and yell, "You just listen to me, will you just listen to me?" No, not really. I guess I'm not tempted. I'd like to do a global slap if I thought that would wake them up and get them focused and get them, wake them up. But no, I mean, like that, getting the lapel and shaking them, too much energy, too much effort for no return, because I know it doesn't help. It just doesn't help. I mean, it is what it is. It's you have to learn to accept the incompetence and stupidity of people, immorality of people. Andrew, the Senate GOP is advising and consenting, as long as that means taking Trump's advice and consenting whatever he wants. Pathetic. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely pathetic. I think they'll probably approve all his nominees, which is going to be, they'll approve RFK, which is, we'll see. Maybe not RFK. We'll see if they have the guts to push back on RFK. But it looks like they'll approve Hegseth, and they'll approve all the others. So pretty bleak. Politics is about as, it's really, really bleak. Esoteric dichotomy here on, why do you think schools, even private schools, do not teach kids financial literacy? What are some things you wish kids, teens were taught? Why don't they? Yeah, I don't know. It seems like pretty basic stuff that should be taught. I think maybe because they struggle so much to teach them just basic math and reading and writing and the basic skills. But they should learn some financial literacy. I mean, basic things like compounding interest, effective compounded interest. How mortgages get priced. I mean, too many people approach, for example, mortgages or credit cards as kind of black boxes. They don't know what's going on. They're sent a bill, they pay the bill, but they don't know what the deal they got is. They know some headline numbers, but they don't really mean anything to them. So a course on just the basics of what interest means, what a rate of return is. When the S&P 500 goes up, what does that mean? What impact does that have on you if you have investments? Just the basics, the very basics of financial literacy. And then income and expenses, just managing basic inputs, outputs. which today everybody should be doing on the computer, partially because you can download all that information from your bank and your credit card companies, and you don't have to do much manually at all. But all of that. So I would combine that. I would combine it with that. Christian, this is a quote. My grandchildren will still fight in Gaza. Dan Schueftan. I think that sounds very negative. As much as I like him, why not talking about occupation and re-education of the whole Gaza Strip? Because I don't know Dan, but because it's just not going to happen. It's just nobody's going to be doing it. Just who's going to occupy it and who's going to re-educate? Israel's not willing to do it. And the world, it seems, is not willing to let them, even if they wanted to. So it's basically nobody's doing it. Nobody has the balls, nobody has the courage, nobody has the stamina, nobody has the audacity to actually win. Win. By the way, the Israeli government this morning, in Israel time, so this afternoon here, early this morning here, authorized the ceasefire deal. The first hostages will be released on Sunday. Israel will start evacuating its troops from the Gaza Strip, I guess now. Esoteric Dichotomy, what is your favorite snack, small meal? Thank you. I mean, I guess recently the snack I've gone to are these, what are they, meat sticks, turkey sticks. It's basically turkey with some spices. There's 0 sugar, 0 saturated fat, and like 7 grams of protein. So I've been eating at least one of those a day. Jerky. It's like jerky. They're quite flavorful. They're quite good. So it's just a steak. They come in individualized wrappings. Then for years and years and years and years and years and years and years, really, when did I mean, yeah, going back 20 years, my go-to snack has always been nuts. Mixed nuts. I've gone through periods where I've just eaten almonds. I've gone through periods where I've eaten other kinds of nuts. But now I get a big pack of mixed nut, dry roasted, unsalted, no salt, dry roasted, so no oil, and mixed nuts. I get at Costco, big packet, and that is, I eat more nuts than probably any other food group. I don't know if nuts is a food group, but it should be. I eat more of those than anything else. So that's probably my main light meal, snack, whatever, go-to thing. All right. That is all the questions we have today. You guys are light on questions today. You know everything. Great. Tomorrow, first 100 days, we will do my plan for the first 100 days. That'll be fun. And Sunday, we'll have our show in Hebrew, talking about Israel's surrender. Monday will be... Monday evening. Monday evening, 7 p.m. East Coast time. I'll be interviewing Amish Adalja and Ray Schur, both from, Amish, but they're both from AFCAM, Association for Free Choice in Medicine, something like that, about healthcare, about in a sense, the ideological, philosophical prerequisites that you would have to convince the culture of in order to get fundamental, long-term healthcare reform. So this is kind of a part 2 of what I talked about a few weeks ago. We'll be talking about healthcare reform from the perspective of the fundamental ideas you have to inculcate in the culture in order to achieve it. So that'll be on Monday, 7 p.m. East Coast time. All right, guys. I will see you all tomorrow. Have a great rest of your Friday. Have a great weekend. And, bye, everybody. Oh, Andrew has a question. Wait. Andrew says the right wouldn't need to troll the left if it could argue seriously based on right ideas. is their trolling an expression of frustration that they can't beat the left intellectually? I mean, yeah, but it's also a kind of crowing. It's a kind of expression of the fact that they do seem to beat them politically, and they do seem to get people really upset, like they're trolling works. It gets people all huffed up. So I think it's a way for them to express their kind of pseudo confidence. I don't know what you want to call it. That yeah, you know, we're getting it done. We can get this. Yeah, for whatever it's worth. But it's look, it's all they can do. I think Hanania says that, you know, the right is just not, people on the right generally are just not very smart. So what do they got left? Arguments they can't make, so might as well troll. Might as well troll. Trolling they get. Trolling they're good at. Arguments, reason, rationality, not so much. All right, guys. See you tomorrow. Bye.